There is our video.
Seriously. It's nice of you to join us, Casey.
Microphone. How's that? Man, sorry about that. Just ran a little bit behind, hitting the links. A little practice round with a few agents. Yeah.
How'd you play?
Oh, man. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I was on fire. I shot a blistering 94.
Oh, nice.
Jernigan was spraying them all over the place. Amy Fine almost ran over a goose and crashed a golf cart into a pond. Roddy Jessup wasn't even sure if he was right-handed or left-handed. I'm beginning to think this golf tournament format was a terrible idea. These agents are really going to struggle with this, Brandon.
Yes, they would, and it would have been a terrible idea if that were the idea. But remember, it's just a sales contest. It was themed as golf.
Oh.
Well, there you go. I believe they have truly missed their calling as ESPN anchors and announcers. All right, let's get back to our leaderboards here real quick. All right, let me get here. Here we go. See if I remember how to do this part. Boom. Nailed it, Brian. Nailed it. All right, we've got our week one of round one of our Symmetry Open. So take a look. This is all the points assigned to those folks. You get a point for an app, a point for a recruit. So we've got our top three for the week. We got a good stack it up there from 4 to 6 as well. And gosh, not much spread down below. So quite a few people starting out hot and still in the hunt for a top prize. All right, we've got coming in at number 3, Mason Van Meter with 18 points. Number 2, Scott Forehand with 20 points. And number 1, so far, Monique L. Raleigh with 23 points for the first round of the Symmetry Open. So again, that's 1 point per app, 1 point per recruit. So everybody's still in the game. We've got another week of the initial round, and then we will be making cuts as of 5:15. Right now, the current cut line to make it is at 4 points. So if you're striving for something, make sure you're above that number. But we got some pretty cool rules this time around with our contest with mulligans and all sorts of cool stuff. So, but the best way to ensure you're in the next round is to make the cut. So keep pushing for that. All right, we've got our week one of directs, and this is not a point system. This is a percentage growth for them. So this is comparing representative periods for them to look at. These numbers will be finalized at the end of the contest as we're looking growth from one period over another, and that won't be done until we're done with the contest. But we've got coming in number 3, Brad and Matt Smith with so far 47% growth. Gosh, looking to be a tough contest here. We're already looking at number 3 at 47% growth. Coming in number 2, Trey Anderson Cloutier with 49.3% growth. And coming in on top, whoa now, that's the big number, 173.4% growth for Rob Puckett on top of our direct leaderboards this week. Well, great work, Rob. Of course, we've got many more weeks to go, so keep growing those organizations and have a chance for some awesome prizes.
Yeah, let's not forget the top 2 prizes are you get to pick between a trip, right, Doug?
Yeah.
Going to Mexico or you're going to Colorado. Two beautiful spots picked out.
What would you pick, Todd? Where would you go? Not that you're going to get a choice, because
I think right now, I've never been to Colorado on a summer trip. I've always gone out to snow ski. But I think I'd probably want to go out and do some mountain biking and do a little whitewater rafting and some fishing in the summertime.
Absolutely. I have been there in both seasons.
But let me be clear, Doug, that's my opinion. and my wife would pick Mexico. So I would be going to
So
Mexico.
you'd be going to Mexico. Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. This is why you're still married. Good work, Todd. All right. Well, congrats to everybody and keep pushing. A lot of great prizes and a great contest. So, announcements. Whoa. I should have read this one ahead of time. That's a lot of
No,
work.
you're okay. I can jump in on this one. So I was talking with our good friends at John Hancock, and they got an important announcement. They wanted it to kind of be rolled out. We talked about doing it maybe tomorrow on the webinar training call, but wanted to make sure we get it out there to the masses today. So while Simple Term with Vitality continues to offer the same instant underwriting decision, now your clients have the option to select a date for their first premium payment that's up to 30 days after the underwriting approval. So as we all know, John Hancock had some feedback that it was a little bit of a challenge with some of our clients out there that needed to kind of have some wiggle room, or they wanted to name what the first date that draw would come from their bank account. And so John Hancock has worked really hard to make this available now, and we'll have our good friends on Mr. Jeff pretty soon. I believe it's next week's Thursday training webinar to speak more about this. But just to further adding in this functionality of the e-app will help John Hancock be an even better solution for you, offer more of the needs more to your clients. Please remember that coverage doesn't begin and commissions won't be paid until the first draft takes place. And that date will be the permanent draft date moving forward. So a nice, important in opportunity now to work with those clients that maybe weren't a fit with John Hancock because you couldn't adjust that initial draw date from the bank account. Those capabilities are there now. So if you got any questions, please reach out to our wonderful representatives over there at John Hancock. They can help you.
Absolutely. A lot of exciting things on the plate with John Hancock. So appreciate them making the adjustments to better serve us and our clients. All right, upcoming events. We've got our Thursday webinar tomorrow, as Todd mentioned earlier. We've got Transamerica's new non-med and final expense update. We also have the ultimate FE training hosted by Director of Final Expense, Gary Key. Coming up on Monday, May 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern, we have our Monday sales training call hosted by Agency Director Christine Slavich on closing the gap on your learning curve. And then next Tuesday, we've got our next debt-free living hosted by the VP of Advanced Market Solutions, Mike Resma. So make sure you check that one out. Get registered for it. All right, Miss Amy Fine, are you out there?
Hello, hello.
Hello. Not only are you going to talk to us about virtual sales, you're going to talk to us a little bit about Thrive.
I am, and I am so excited to do so. First off, Doug, I have to just say I'm so grateful that there's people like you out there that read off the leaderboards. I was thinking about it. I'm like, if I had to do that, everybody would just get initials. Like there's no way I would try and pronounce some of these names. So thank you, Doug.
Yeah, you got to be willing to mess them up. That's what I've learned. And I've also learned nobody likes to do it because anytime Brandon and Casey aren't able to be here, I'm the one tapped to come in and do leaderboards. So I guess that's a privilege. I'll take it as that.
Well, I'm excited about this tool of the week. And I'm also really excited to have Brian on and Doug and Spivey. Any interaction. I know you guys use the tool of the week that we're going to be covering. You guys use this on a daily and weekly basis. So would love as well any input you guys have to bring to the table. So yeah, I'm stoked. Yeah.
Very good. Well, you're going to be talking to us about, one of my favorites, one of the first ones we learned, Brian, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now, back in our beginning work with John, which is our 5 gears. So Amy, walk us through what the 5 gears is all about.
Absolutely. So these, and just to give you guys some context, this is something that I apply in my life personally and in my business life across the board. And I'm going to be able to give you hopefully 1 or 2 practical tips on how you guys can actually apply this tool to your everyday life. So if you are a note taker like me, if you get easily distracted, have your pen and paper ready, because I really want this to be practical. I think some of these tools, they're incredible, but unless we actually apply them, they're not going to do much for us. So this tool of the week is called the 5 gears. And this is, I cannot tell you how many times this has saved me. Not only in me managing myself, but in me learning how to communicate and work with other people. So just to kind of run through these real quick, and then we can dive more in depth into them. The first one, that 5th gear, focus mode. It's task centered, fully focused, and you're moving quickly. So to give you guys an idea, an illustration, that's when you shut the door, you tell the kids, hey, don't bother me. You turn your phone off, and you have that one task in front of you that you need to accomplish. That's that 5th gear focus mode. This, just a little bit of from a personal note, this is my biggest weakness across the board. I'm a connector, creative pioneer, and focus mode. This is a muscle I'm developing, to say the least. I know, Brian, working with you, we've talked about this quite a bit. That next one is task mode. This is multitasking, working hard in different various ways. This is where you can be responding to emails, picking up phone calls, preparing for appointments, whatever it is. That's when you're kind of doing multiple things at once. Anybody been in that mode, and you look up after a few hours and you're like, did I get anything done? I was just busy, but did I actually get anything done? That's that 4th mode, that task mode. Social mode, which is the 3rd gear, that's when you're present with people, and that's when you're actually in that connecting mode. You're able to start establishing relationships. How are you doing? What's going on? I like to think about the social mode when you're running appointments. If you're in the field, that's that rapport mode. That's when you're getting to know them. You're starting to build some trust. There's not much of an agenda to it other than just to connect. And the 2nd gear here is connect mode. This is where you really are connecting, and you're intentional with a specific person or with your family. You can't be in 2nd gear in a room full of people. You can't. Second, that connect mode, that is when you're truly present in that moment. It could be date night. It could be, putting the kids to bed, whatever that might be. That's where you're at. The first gear here too is the recharge mode. This is personal recharge, whatever that looks like for you. I am, as I said, a connector creative. So I feel like I'm always slightly recharging, if that makes sense. But it's hard for me to get that full recharge. So that's when you need to figure out for you, what is it that you need to find that level of recharge that you can hit your day strong, start a new week, feel relaxed, connect with your family, whatever that is. I think for some people it could be hike, and for me it's like hiking. It could be, like your morning meditation, devotion. It could be whatever that is, whatever you need, spa day, massage, whatever it is, clean the house. That is your recharge mode. And then lastly, we have the responsive mode. It's kind of like the reverse. I'm really familiar with this one. Anybody else? Am I the only one that's pretty familiar with the responsive mode? That's when you're
never having to back up.
I was telling Brian today, Amy, before we got on, I was doing some one-on-one catching up with Brian, that I felt like I needed to come on today in reverse mode, because I have been so backed up, and I've got over 100 something emails that I need to respond to. So
totally
large apology to everybody that's waiting to hear back from me, and I promise I'm trying to get caught up, but I'm totally in the R mode right now.
Totally.
It sounds like you need that 5th gear time.
5th gear, maybe some recharge, a little, little first action. And that's like, for me, that's really taking ownership of where you're at, knowing that how you show up in the world, in your interactions, in your conversations, you are impacting everybody around you, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And I think that responsive mode, the one thing that really takes is that understanding of who you are, your tendencies, where you're at, or to have incredible people like I do, like my brother Samuel Fine, to hold a mirror up and say, hey, this is how you're coming across. I think it's John Maxwell says it's called a blind spot for a reason. You don't see it. You can't see it. So I think that responsive mode, that's when we really get to kind of put the car in reverse. And, in this is so funny. Doug, I don't know if you were there. Were you there the day that Chief was trying to teach me how to drive stick.
I remember. Yeah.
Yep, yeah. Yeah, not very successfully. I have video footage of this. If anybody wants me to dive into the archives and find this, it's pretty funny. But the one thing I really want to focus on today is like it can be great to know these different gears that we should be in. But I think the hardest thing for me, and I don't know if any of you guys would speak to this, is knowing when and how to transition in between gears. That's hard. And if anybody wants to see that video footage of me almost driving Brandon's truck into the barn, just text me. I'll send you the video. It's pretty funny. And I could not get it because I couldn't feel the shift. And so, for us, we live in such an automatic world, but for us as humans, as, people walking this life that we live, we can't automatically easily shift between these without intention. So that's really what I want to talk about, and Brian, actually, if you could real quickly just speak to, for you personally, the value of being able to transition. Say you walk into a room and Doug here is in fifth gear and you walk in social mode, like it's hard, that's when you're stalling out and almost running into the barn. But yeah, if you could speak to that.
Well, it is difficult. And, I love that you're going after intentionality, because if you think about the 5 gears metaphor, the clutch is intentionality. I mean, you push the clutch down, you're intentionally putting that lever down so you can shift. And so we've got to be intentional about shifting in and out. And so this is where it takes, triggers and tactics, right? We need triggers for ourselves to be in a certain gear. So an example of that would be, and I don't want to steal your thunder, I'm sure you're going after examples, but the physical space that you're in, right? I mean, there's places that I go to do certain things. Like I go to my basement to do my first gear morning kind of reading reflection time. I come upstairs, and when I hit the office, I'm in the office for X amount of time. If I have a 2-hour block of admin time, I actually have a different place that I go. So finding those triggers and finding the tactics that help you get there is vital. So yeah, in fact, just so you know, if Doug was in 5th gear, I wouldn't mess with him, because he would be in 5th gear and he'd be in focus mode. That's right.
That's why I got a 5th gear flag. I just wave it at Todd Spivey when he's wandering outside my glass office with Todd. I don't want to high five Todd. I'm in 5th gear here.
That's right.
I think one of the most important things, I got to jump to go back to my training. For me, one of the most important, and I love that, is, understanding when there's a mismatch between these as well. And, if I'm, maybe I'm in 3rd gear, but somebody else is in 5th gear, or even in 1st gear, and I come in the social place, then, a lot of conflict or just simple friction in relationships can occur when there's this mismatch. But I love one of the things I still carry from the original 5 Voices book was just Jeremy's description of, using that trigger when I think he was driving home, like when I cross this bridge, right, and I'm on my way to see my family, like I'm still probably processing all of the things that were going on in my day and in my work. But I have implemented the same strategy, which is, we pass a beautiful college on the way home on my drive home. And every time I hit that open field at Warren Wilson College, is that trigger in my brain to start letting go of the stuff I'm carrying with me from the day and being intentional about moving towards, hey, I'm about to see my family, I'm about to see my kids. It's even more essential that Wendy and I work together. So there's a lot of stuff we can get into. But to me, the most important thing at that point is to just be able to go home and connect. And so using those triggers and using the process as a way just to remind myself, like, hey, shift down. And if you need to get back to those other ones, you can later. But for this time, what's most important is coming in that gear.
Yeah. And two, it's I'm sure I feel like I can feel some of y'all's anxiety, because you're like, but I work from home. Like how do I turn off work mode? And so for me personally, like there's a couple of things I do every single day. At the end of the day, I go for a quick walk around the block. Even if it's just a 5-minute little stroll, that's my decompress. I'm getting out of the task mode. I'm getting out of the focus mode, and I'm just going to focus on whatever is at home waiting for me. And I want to share this story. I think, Brian, this is going to really resonate with you and hit your heart. So this is probably right, I'd say a couple months into the pandemic, and we're all home and kids are home from school, and I have an incredible top producer in my agency. Her name's Cindy Sawyer, and I always joke and say she has like 17 kids. I think she actually has 6 or 7, but I feel like I lose count. But it was a challenging thing having all the kids home from school, and her full-time agent, full-time producing, learning to adjust, going from in-person sales to virtual. And we were talking one day and connecting, and she just shared, this has been a really challenging season. Like I feel like I'm not getting anything done. I feel like I'm scattered. I feel like I'm split. I feel like I'm not present with my family. And so, in that conversation, we went back to the 5 gears. And in my plethora of parenting experience, none, but I thought, gosh, I'd heard and just like you were saying, Doug, I don't know if it was Jeremy Kubicek or whomever it was talking about how they taught their family the 5 gears, and they invited their kids into that level of communication, to where they knew what it meant when mommy held up 5 fingers. They knew that meant focus mode for mama. And so in that, Cindy started teaching her kids, and to this day, they still use it. And so she was telling me, even just 1 or 2 nights ago, she was having her reading time with Liam, and his older sister walks in, and Liam goes, it's 5th gear time with mommy. This is my focus time with mommy. So I love that though,
awesome.
because it's empowered that family as a whole. And so in these tools, you guys, I think the most important thing is to communicate them with the people in your life. And I can speak to this firsthand. I'm in business with what feels like my entire family, my brothers, my dad. And so, like the other night, we're on Zoom and we're celebrating mom for Mother's Day, and everybody hops off except for dad and mom and Jeremy, who's about to be on the call. And we started talking about something work related. And Jeremy goes, okay, why are we talking about work? And I was like, oh, good. Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeremy. This is clearly not work time. So in this, just know, not only can it empower you to really manage and take ownership of your life, but be intentional with what gear you're in. And this is just a practical tip. I don't know where I heard this. Actually, it might have been Kishan, but I actually color coordinate my calendar in a way. So if I have something on my calendar that needs to be 5th gear time, it's a specific color. If I have something on my calendar, say it's a team meeting, that's going to be that task mode, social mode. And I know that, I mark that. So even on like a practical standpoint, I actually put it into my calendar. You can say, at the end of your title, 5th gear or 1st gear. And that's just a good cue to, especially when you're intentionally planning out your week, you know what you're going into. And Brian, I know we were talking a couple weeks ago, and you're just checking in. You're like, how are you doing? And I was like, I feel like I'm working so hard and I'm not getting anything done. And I looked at my calendar, and I feel like majority of it was 4th gear mode. And I'm like, no wonder why I'm not getting it done.
Yeah, you're not alone in that. Just real quick, I think most busy leaders have way too much 4th gear, and they underutilize 5th gear, and it's a reality, because it's difficult to honor that time on your schedule where you're going to say, I'm going to do this deep work. But man, there is a demand for 5th gear, and you've got to make sure that the supply of distraction and other things to do, Cal Newport talks about that in Deep Work, right? Where we've got to find those spaces. They're replenishing, they're rewarding. We grow in those places of 5th gear. So yeah, it's just a good challenge, I think, as you're presenting this, to remember this week. I've got 5th gear on my calendar this week, and I actually had a kind of an urgent meeting, and I crept into it a little bit. And sometimes you have to do that, but the reality is getting that space and protecting the heck out of it, where you're not available to people, and actually be okay saying, hey, I've got 5th gear, I can't do it then. And yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. And just to kind of end on this note, even from a practical standpoint, as an agent, where your main focus right now, you're like, I'm just dialing. I'm just learning how to book appointments. I'm just running appointments. I would really challenge you to let that dial time be 5th gear time as much as possible. I know it can feel like multitasking, because you're learning, like you've got the script in front of you, you're sending the confirmation email, but treat that time as fifth gear time. The last thing that sometimes, I'm sure any leader out there knows what this feels like. You have an agent call you and they're like, guess what? I just booked an appointment. Yeah, I just spent a couple hours preparing for it. I called a couple carriers. I read an agent guide or two. And I'm like, you just wasted 2 or 3 hours that you could have been dialing to book up 7 more appointments. So protect that time. And you can carve out fifth gear time before your appointments to prepare for them. But when you sit down to dial, make those dials and don't let any other interruptions get in the way.
That's great. So
Great.
impactful there, Amy, and I've really benefited from this. Brian's really challenged me in my calendar to set aside that quiet, that me time before I get into my task mode where I'm just multitasking. And for me at home really was a big deal because I really spent a lot of my time driving home from work to return phone calls that I need to make. And so a lot of times I'm in the driveway on my phone and the kids are looking through the glass door at daddy, like, when's he going to get out of the car? And so what I've had to do with myself, sometimes, I'm not always using the best clutch, but I've learned to teach myself when I grab that gear shift and I put it in park, work's done, it's family time. And so even if it has to be that abrupt for me, it's really powerful. And my kids know. They actually listen for that sound. And when the engine sound goes from a higher whine to a low idle, they know dad's done with work and they attack my car. And it's done so much for me at home with my kids. So appreciate you sharing this tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy you pulled up the exercise sheet, Doug. I was going to point everybody in that direction. If you guys have not filled out this exercise sheet, and please be honest with yourself when you fill this out. This is really eye-opening. It can maybe pinpoint 1 or 2 of these gears that either you have a hard time transitioning to, or maybe you just avoid completely. So,
yeah. And these are all available. If you want more information, please go to Quility U under the Thrive tab, and you will find information all about 5 gears, as well as the other 20-something Thrive tools we have out there, worksheets, videos, all sorts of things to help you learn a little bit more about this and implement it. So thank you so much, Ms. Fine, Mr. Williamson, Mr. Spivey, great work. Oh yeah, there it is. I am going to exit out of here and stop sharing. Last thing I'll say is we do use hand signals around here, like 5th gear, 4th gear, 3rd gear. You do have to be really careful which finger you use for 1st gear. Just FYI, Spivey. All right, hope you all have a great rest of the call. I'm gonna go back to black belt ninja training in the back of the room here. I'm gonna pass it over to you, Todd and Brian.
Should we queue up AC/DC back in black? Is that
Right, that's right.
Is that AC/DC? Yeah, I think that's an AC/DC. So,
you got it. Yes, sir. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you coming on, Doug, and so excited about today's call and something that we've been talking a lot about in the home office for some time. I always take this opportunity to give a shout out to what we call the itty bitty COVID committee, who really pulled together in the early stages of COVID and the pandemic and started shifting the mindset of an entire organization that went from 98% of all sales were done face-to-face in home to where now about 65% of every sale we make is made through a Zoom call or a Zoom appointment like this, or through just a telephone conversation. And that pivot was so enormous for our company. We've now are shattering records. I was at a birthday dinner last night and was hanging out by the fire with a couple of my friends from Black Mountain. And just to hear them talk about their companies and the struggles they've gone through and where they're at financially as an organization throughout this great pandemic. And for me to not really be able to chime in to the conversation because I was overwhelmed with so much gratitude that I felt like it would be bragging to say that not only did we maintain what we were doing pre-COVID, but now we're shattering record after record. I mean, some of our down weeks right now, we experienced one a couple of weeks back, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, was actually a record setter for 2019. That was a down week. So what we've been able to accomplish has been just phenomenal, and so much gratitude goes to so many, and Cicely Newsom that led that itty bitty COVID committee, and somebody like Amy Fine who poured her heart and soul into jumping into the field and running these virtual appointments to help us equip ourselves with all the tools we would need to continue to protect families and do it from the comfort of our home. So today's call is awesome, mastering virtual selling, some dynamic individuals. If we could have Jeremy and Samuel and Sean join us. What do we call it, Amy? Veil, unveil,
Unveil,
show yourself,
reveal your face.
reveal your face. I like it. So appreciate you all being on. I mean, this is a true treat, and everybody get out your pencil and your paper and get prepared to share. And we're just so excited and grateful for you all putting your time in to pour into everybody else. And I'll turn it over to you guys and be listening in, taking notes myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are really, really honored and excited to be here. Any chance that home office reaches out and says, hey, can you do this, or do you want to do this? Our rule of thumb at the Fine Agency is just always say yes, and then we'll figure it out later. So I got a text late on Friday saying, hey, do you want to run the call on Wednesday? And I'm like, yes, yes, absolutely. So it is an honor and a privilege just to serve all of Symmetry. And I just want to say, first off, my name is Amy Fine. I'm direct to Lynn Watkins. And like Doug mentioned, I used to work at home office way back when, and I was standing here just thinking and reflecting on my time here at Symmetry. And my connection here was the fact that Brandon Ellison one day, in a moment of frustration and overwhelm, decided to post an ad on care.com looking for a nanny. And I somehow responded to that ad and interviewed. This is actually pretty funny. I'll never let Brandon Meredith live this down. I did not get the job, but a week later they called me back and said, we made a mistake. Will you come work with us? So I'm just so grateful that 7 years ago that Brandon decided to post the ad on care.com. And because of that, this has changed the trajectory of my entire family. Talk about impact on generational levels. The fact that my dad is in the business with us, Samuel, you're here, agency owner Jeremy's here, and the fact that we get to partner with incredible individuals all over the country, like the Boatmans. So we are just excited and honored to be here. And, I want to kind of set this call up. Obviously, the title is Mastering Virtual Sales. And for our agency, we have not gone back to in person. We're kind of at this place where we're like, this is really working for us. We experience growth. We're able to actually connect and help new agents even run their first few appointments. This has empowered us to actually scale and be more involved, I feel like, in our agency's lives, in our agents' lives. So I don't know about you guys, maybe you guys would beg to differ. I do miss the face-to-face sometimes. I'm personally not in the field, but I know for you guys that this has been such an incredible thing. And I asked these three incredible gentlemen the other day, I was like, how many hours did you used to spend a week driving? And collectively, between these three guys, Samuel, Jeremy, and Sean, over 35 hours a week they were spending combined driving to and from appointments. 35 hours a week. Jeremy, you were pulling 15, sometimes 20, Samuel at least 10, Sean, you were at least 10. And so with that, like the fact that we're able to buy back that time and to be able to sit with more families, book more appointments, all from our home, that is a testimony to being able to see this company pivot. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. And I remember the first weekend, I was in touch with a few people at home office, and they were like, yeah, can you just get some leads and try to run some appointments virtually and give us some feedback? And I went out there and in one day wrote over $8,500 in APV virtually, having never done it before. And so I think the biggest thing, I just want to be that continuous thread throughout this time. And if you guys are writing notes, write this down. It was actually funny. I was talking to an agent this week and she goes, what's the most common thing you say, Amy? Like the most consistent thing you say? And I was just thinking like, oh, dear God, what is she about to say? And she says, you say more times than not, don't overthink it. So if you got a pen and paper right now, I want you to write this down. This is the only thing you write down. Write this down. Don't overthink it. When you are doing anything new, if you're transitioning, going from something that is in your comfort zone, that is your normal, and you're transitioning to, saying adapting and making small corrections to fit the needs of where you're at, don't overthink it. The basics are the basics. And here we don't graduate from the basics. We don't step away from the fundamentals of who we are and what we do, the core system at Symmetry. We just master the basics. So guys, you might be hearing this call today and you're going to be like, yeah, we know this, but my question to you is, are you applying it? Are you applying it? And in that, get ready to take notes, because we will never step away from the basics. And for me, that's a good thing, because I'm pretty comfortable. I'm like, let's just stick with the basics. Let's just get really good at this. But in this, if you haven't written that down, write it down, because overthinking it and getting stuck in your head, that's only going to trip you up in the long run. So, in this, I just want to introduce these three incredible gentlemen that have, not only are they family, and Sean, you and Brandy are family to my core. I love you each so deeply, but you guys have really become running buddies and best friends in this business. And I would not be here without you guys. I can't tell you how many times I've had those hard days, those challenging moments. And then Samuel calls me and he's like, dude, I just hired 5 people today. And then Sean calls me, I just wrote 8K. And Jeremy calls me and he did the same. And I'm just like, all right, well, look at that. We just wrote 16K and hired 5 people. This is awesome. So find those running buddies. But just to give you guys some stats, Samuel Fine, just to do a quick introduction, Samuel Fine, agency owner, out there in San Diego, married to my beautiful sister-in-law, Marissa. Sean Boatman out there in Washington State, married to Brandy Boatman. Let's be honest, she's the boss. And then Jeremy Fine, single, everybody. Oh, no, you're not single. You're dating in Asheville, North Carolina. So, but guys, just to give you an idea of some of these stats, when these guys went virtual, I'm just going to give you, for a 12-month period, 100% virtual sales. I'm just going to run over some numbers here real quick. Sean Boatman, key leader and top producer, $251,000, 176 apps, all virtual when COVID hit. Jeremy Fine, top producer, $266,000 in APV, 208 applications. And then last but not least, Samuel Fine, agency owner, $323,000 in APV, 293 applications, you guys. And guys, these are just a few of the people that were well over $250,000 of APV from April 2020 to April 2021, 100% virtual. So I'm so proud of our team to be able to see people not only lean into the discomfort, but when this hit, I think we all quickly realized when we transitioned to virtual, we're not going to see many changes. And so this is not going to get easier, but guess what? We can just get better. And these 3 gentlemen, they got better. And I'm just so honored to be a part of you guys. But real quick, actually, before we get into the meat of this call, real quick, round robin. Samuel, introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, Symmetry Nation. This is Samuel Fine, direct to the amazing Amy Fine. And I'm so thankful to be here today.
Awesome. Sean Boatman?
Yeah, Sean Boatman, direct to Amy Fine, out here in Western Washington. And also, thank you for having us on the call. We're excited to be here.
Real quick, Sean, what happened to your hair in your head? That popped up, and I was like, did Brandy?
I was looking at Tony Capistrano's picture, and I was like, my gosh, he looks so good. And I was looking at my photo. I couldn't look away. It's like I had a hydroplane foil on the top, like I was about to gain air any second. I was like, I just was looking at it like, all right, I got to call Tony because something has gone seriously sideways. I have no idea.
Sideways. I mean, at least you had a headshot. Samuel didn't. And Jeremy, yourself. Jeremy, introduce yourself. There we go.
Guys, Amy, I'm so happy to be here. I'm Jeremy Fine. I'm direct to Samuel Fine. And I just wanted to say I don't have as high-pitched of a voice as Amy made it sound like I have earlier. So I just thought I'd say that.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have each and every one of you guys on here. And real quick, just to kind of we've kind of dug a little bit into the virtual selling. I've hit most of the points I'm going to hit. Really, today's call, I just want these guys to have as much time and space as possible. We've got solid 30 minutes here, so we're just going to knock it out. But for us, I touched on the scalability. The fact that we've got a new agent, soon to be a new SNA. He's already written 6 applications in less than a week. Rusty Miller, we're so proud of you. But his first appointment, he was able to call me during his appointment. I was able to actually join the meeting with him because I was available at that time and help him navigate that first appointment and close that sale with him. And so I would have never been able to do that before. I would have not hopped in my car, driven to Missouri to help this guy out. But the fact that I could, in the convenience of my home office, be able to lend support like that. And, Brian, you've been helping us work on, that part of the learning process, which is, okay, I'm going to do this and you watch. Now you're going to do this and I'm going to help. And it's really helped us. It's empowered us to coach. We've become better coaches, better leaders with those daily huddle ups where we're not disconnected. It's not just a phone call, but we're actually able to connect to the best of our ability without being in the same room together. So, but with this, kind of the then and now, one testimony I just want to hit on, which honestly, it makes me cry if I think about it too much, is, Sean and Brandy, their story and, the impact that virtual selling had on them on a personal level with their family. So Sean, before we dive into this, if you could just share, like, from the then to now, like, what did virtual selling empower you guys to do?
Yeah, gosh, a lot. I mean, there's been a significant amount, probably some of the most massive changes we had in 24 years of marriage. 2.5, just a little over 2 years ago, we were probably in one of the worst spots we've ever been in. Had about $1.3 million worth of real estate that we were holding. And we lost all of our career, all of our income, everything was gone. So we had 3 mortgages, 2 of those financed with hard money. It was a bad spot. It was a really bad spot. And, when we came in and started, getting in the flow here and working things out, we went, okay, we can work our way out. And we think we can go to the spot ultimately where we want to live. Just land out where we want to live, land of flowing milk and honey out here. It's all beautiful. But we think we can get there maybe in about 8 to 10 years if we really keep our heads down, bust our picks, really get after it, right? And then COVID came along, and boy, it was a gut check moment because we really didn't know what kind of impact that was going to have on the business, and probably one of the great side effects, one of the blessings of COVID, if we could even say that. That sounds very contradictory. I don't mean to offend anybody, but we learned how to run the business in a brand new way that we had no clue could be done. We just didn't have a frame of reference for that. That's not how Symmetry was built. Certainly not how we were trained. We were already a year in, but I think we all hit the ground running and we figured it out collectively, right? The whole group, we figured it out really quick. And I remember we were about I'm thinking back to the math. I think we're about 2 months into the pandemic, and we were selling and writing, premium, helping families. And I remember going and talking with Brandy. We'd already gotten rid of some of the real estate. And I said, if we can run this business remotely here, we can run it remotely over there. What do you think? I didn't get to finish the sentence, and she was pounding a for sale sign in the front lawn, right? And it was kind of a decision at the speed of thought. We took some time, of course. We did, counsel with family and, talked with you too as well. But, the 10-year plan for us got shrunk to about 3 months in terms of where we wanted to actually geographically be living and spending our time. And boy, we just didn't see that coming. It wasn't anything we could have ever planned. It wasn't anything we could have ever designed or worked towards. We had a very realistic outworking. Those 8 to 10 years of getting to go where we are now. And so that was a huge change. All the other things as well. I mean, just in terms of training, coaching, all these pieces that are out there. Meeting with agents on their Zoom calls. I couldn't do that before. I hire somebody in Arkansas. I can't go do a ride along with them. They can't sit in on one of my appointments. That's transformed everything. We have agents coming on now. They'll say, hey, here's my appointment. Would you be able to help and hop on? That's not for everything, but it certainly is very nice to help someone kind of get in the flow, get where they're going, and just have them start taking off in the direction that we know that they can go. And when they watch somebody else do it, that belief begins to form. We heard Brad Smith talk about that so much, about the power of belief and how we get there. It's huge. So anyway, it's transformed everything. And by the way, there's no population out here. If I wanted to go back to in-person appointments, I couldn't do it. There's 7,000 people in the valley, the small valley where we live. And, there was tens and tens of thousands where we came from. So it's virtual for us, for the near future.
And two, the scalability, the fact that, now you're running appointments sometimes in Texas, Louisiana, like Virginia, like the fact that we can actually cast our net even that much further is such a blessing. So we're excited to get into the meat and the potatoes today. And, with this, you guys remember, at the end of the day, there's not a better or worse. We're not saying in-person appointments are awful, don't ever do them again. We're not saying that. You know what you need, your mentor knows what you need, but what has really worked for us is leaning into and maximizing the virtual selling and really sticking to that. So I'm excited to bring on next Jeremy Fine. If you can, you already introduced yourself, but dive into it. Like for you are an incredible producer. We joke about this, not always consistent, but when you decide to turn it on, you turn it on. And that's what I love about what you found here is, when we say this here is really an ATM machine, it is for you. You can literally turn it on whenever you want to. And so for you, I know that you have truly fine-tuned your process from the preparation side of things, getting ready for a good week in the field, riding 10 plus K. And so Jeremy, if you could just dive into, what does it take for you to go into a solid week prepared and equipped and ready to go for virtual selling?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Amy. Super grateful to be here. Thank you so much to Brandon, Casey, and Brian. Firstly, but guys, honestly, like for me, I don't really do anything all that different than from what the system says. There's nothing special like necessarily that I do that's like a golden nugget to like turn it on or turn it off or anything like that, guys. Like for me, like I know I can have confidence and I know I can connect with people. That hasn't changed, right? The only difference for me, for my process personally, is there's a computer screen in between me and my client. That's the only thing. As long as I'm still connecting with them, I'm still, as Matt and Brad Smith said, I'm still being an answer to a problem. I'm still able to help them in the same manner. But that first comes from in this preparation of setting up yourself for success, firstly with your mindset and what you're wanting to get out of this. Because I know Tony Robbins said that setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible to the visible. So guys, what you want to do firstly and foremost is figure out what you need out of this. Talk to your mentor, get with them, and really, say like, I need to issue $5,000 of business. And that all comes back to the system and the 4 keys to success is once you figured out your goal, we can systematize that out for you to hit that by first putting in the resources, getting the resources you need. And that can be different for everybody, but you don't want to eat your seed, right? Once you get your commissions, don't just be like, wow, I just made like $3,000. I've never made this much in 4 days. Don't eat your seed. Buy leads right when you get that commission so that you can set yourself up and have success. And then secondly, guys, you're gonna need to put in the work. You can't just come here and lacklusterly hope to write 10 grand. That stuff is scheduled out. And so you're gonna want to book more appointments than you think. I was looking at the Symmetry Facebook page and I noticed like 4 or 5 different posts this week of, hey, anybody have tips and trips on the tie down? I'm like, yeah, we definitely need to work on the tie down. But if you know that your show ratio is less than normal, book more appointments to cover the difference. right? This is a learning curve, a learning process. So put in that massive action and then go to your mentor and get that constant correction. But, guys, also next, like, you have this system to plug into. We have these conference calls. We have our team. We have all of these different resources to plug into, and kind of like a testimony to that, guys. And this was a recent, this past month, I did, I think it's $40,000 or $42,000 in production. And I did 2 weeks of over 10K. And then the next week, I just kind of didn't do anything. I think I did like 2,500. I was like, oh, okay, well, I want to get ears, so like I need to work hard. So I posted in our group chat. I said, all right, guys, I'm grinding hard this week. I'm gonna do what's necessary to write $12,500 of business, because I knew that would get me over the threshold of 40,000. So I publicly announced my goal. I told the team where my downfalls were and what I didn't do right the week before, and how I really just slacked. I didn't do the work. And so I told the team, some people were like, hey, we want to do this with you. And so I got my resources and I just went to work, and guess what I did that week? I wrote $12,500 of business. I spoke it into existence. I set out that plan, and I made what was invisible visible, right? But
Jeremy,
it
actually,
wasn't a Hail Mary, right? It was planned out. And so I want to pass it on to Sean Boatman, because he's way better at this than I am, guys. I'm really good with people. I'm terrible with a calendar and stuff like that. So I want to pass this on to Sean Boatman, because he's really mastered the schedule side of things. And Sean, I'm just gonna let you run with it here, man.
just to intercept that for just a moment. Jeremy, real quick, I want to point out something that you just said that I think is so impactful. Sorry to catch the ball in between that throw there. Sorry, Sean.
All good.
Oh, perfect. Go for it.
But, Jeremy, one thing which, that week, you've got your standing GMR in place, but you knew in order to actually write more APV than I know I can typically get out of my standing order, I need more resources. I can't milk, that. And Jeremy, real quick, like for that, just on a practical standpoint, how many appointments did you book?
I booked 17.
17 appointments. When you were in the field, you were probably booking 10 to 12. So Jeremy knew I'm going to book more appointments than what I used to do in order to get the results I'm shooting to get. But on top of that, you got an extra 6 or 7 A leads to add to that week to make sure you had enough resources. And for you to have, the wisdom, one, to counsel with us, especially Samuel, and then as well to, hold yourself accountable, guys. There's nothing better to hold yourself accountable than to make a public announcement of it, And so, but it's not just the intention you set, Jeremy, it's the work that you put behind it. And that does not go unnoticed. I mean, your work is unbelievable. So yeah, I wanted to point that out because it wasn't a fluke, like you said, it wasn't a Hail Mary, whatever that means. I know.
Man, you love your sports, don't you? But yeah, no, guys, if you really want to hit a goal or hit a commitment, make it public. Because honestly, like, it wasn't for me, it wasn't like, oh gosh, like if I don't hit this 12,500, like I didn't hit my goal. But like, I posted it to our team. People that are direct to me saw what I want to do. People that come to me for advice within our team saw in our group, this is what Jeremy's saying he's going to do. And guys, if I didn't do it, I wasn't letting myself down. I was letting the team down at that point. And this is a team effort. And so just like a testimony to, like, as a culture, we can have that accountability even though we're not in person.
That's so good. Jeremy, just real quick, how long, what was your sales career before you came to Symmetry? I mean, how long were you in commission sales before you started selling insurance?
I wasn't. I
All right.
was Chick-fil-A. I was a student and home office.
All right.
I'm a 22-year-old kid, guys. Like, I'm turning 23 next month. If anybody can do this, like a dude with his flannel shirt wide open, a big old beard, a ring on his pinky. Yeah, if I can do it, y'all can do it.
And that's very true, right? I mean, so these are the things that we're talking about. So why doesn't everybody do it? You know, there's something fundamentally different about it. You know, we talk about things all the time. We come on these calls and, you know, oh, look, on Monday, we had some fantastic people speaking on the Monday morning sales call, and they were talking about the strength of schedule. And we kind of beat on these things quite a bit. And one of the reasons why is because at the different leadership levels, we see agents struggling with things going, gosh, that's a puzzle. Why are they struggling with that? And invariably we find out it's because that there's certain tools that are not in place that we know will help them be successful, right? You know, and I just think it's such a testimony to the system that we have. When somebody with no sales background, you know, great personality, but no sales background, 22 years old, doing $40,000 in a month. That's pretty incredible. I took a pause on production to do some things, some personal things, everything else, came right back in and did just upwards of $12,000 in APV 2 weeks ago. But how do we do that? Strength of schedule, right? Properly resourced, massive activity, constant correction. And one of the things that newer agents fall into all the time is they're getting one of these pieces. And here's a perfect example, right? We're talking about schedule. We're talking about priorities. I can see the total count for how many people are on this call. And it's not where it should be. It's not where it should be, right? But everybody at the top, right, of what we're doing here, they say that the people that plug in, the people that are on the calls, they win, right? They're getting fed. They're learning how to manage their schedule. They're learning how to have a proper work-life balance. I can guarantee to everybody on this call that if you reached out to your upline, your mentor, and said, hey, I'm going to take a couple hours and dial my schedule in. Would you review it with me when we're done? Would you take 15 minutes and review it with me and show me how to be better at it? These are my goals. These are my commitments. You know, I got family time and Devo time that's in there. You know, I got dial time. I got, you know, all the things. They'll help you do that. But something that we see, it's heartbreaking to us as trainers, right? When we're in these roles where we're trying to coach people along, is when people are so far off schedule that it's literally impacting their posture and their stance and their peace of mind, their ability to function well. You know, these 5 gears that we just ran through a little bit with Amy and Brian, if your schedule's on point, it will reflect that, right? You know, this is something that we see a contrast here. New agents, oftentimes they're available any day, any hour, any time. And I remember when I first came in, I kind of had a little bit of that mindset. I remember Amy telling me, she goes, I only run appointments on Monday, Tuesday. And I was like, well, but you mean, you know, if the client can't meet any other day, she goes, no, I only do it Monday, Tuesday. I was like, well, right. But I mean, for those rare, this went back and forth like 5 or 6 times. She's like, no, I only do it on Monday, Tuesday. And what happened there was that she was so busy, right, with legitimate things on her calendar. And it was teed up in such a way that that's what she had available for her clients that impacted her appointment setting to a degree that made every one of her appointments, her booking ratio went up, right? Her closing ratio went up, her show ratio went up because that posture carried all the way through. Let me just tell you something, just from a practical standpoint. If you're faking it, if you're faking this part, when you're talking to a client, you say, I don't have anything available on Thursday, and your calendar's literally wide open and you're going to be sitting around, you know, playing Mario Kart, they will know. They'll know. You cannot fake that kind of stuff. When we're saying make your schedule, we mean put everything on there that's important and commit to it. I have a 9 o'clock standing time with my family where we go, look, you know, there's a bunch of other stuff on the calendar too. I won't go into all the details, but there's 9 o'clock every night. We make sure that everybody's done with all their stuff, no calls, no team platform, you know, texts, right? And we're doing a family half an hour there of just a family devotional that we do. That's sacred time for us. That's important for my family life. It's important for my team that I have a schedule like that because that starts to become predictable. And one of the things that we see here is that, you know, when you have that kind of consistency, it creates emotional stability. I can't afford for Amy not to have a great schedule. I really can't. I rely upon her. I rely upon Samuel to have, and Jeremy. I rely upon everybody that's in our immediate groups to run a schedule and maintain it, and to also have boundaries on when I'm available, so my agents know where's their access. Am I available 24/7? No, I just can't. I can't. I've got a life too, right? So these things are really important. New agents tend to be available anytime, any day. Seasoned agents are too calendar committed to allow that. Okay, too calendar committed. If you do not have a calendar, this is something literally you can do probably in an hour. But if you don't follow through with it, you won't get what you want out of it, right? This is the part of leading ourselves that we have to have, and the mindset behind leading ourselves. Had an interesting thing. I joined the CrossFit down the hill. Everything hurts. It's not enjoyable.
I don't know why I just laughed.
I know. Well, because it's not good. But I've had an interesting thing this morning, or yesterday morning. I went down, the lady leading the class. Fantastic attitude. Fantastic attitude. Leading that class, motivating, inspiring. She was probably had, I'm going to say, north of 100 pounds to lose. North of 100 pounds. I thought, well, what an interesting visual to see her up there leading enthusiastically with a great attitude. I have less weight to lose, right? But I thought her belief is so strong. She doesn't have the results that she wants yet, but she's committed to the process. She's committed to the process, but she's not at the end of her journey, right? She's taking the steps that she knows will get there. She's not there yet, right? She's borrowed belief from somewhere else, either, from herself, from other people who've gone before her. Also found out that one of the guys in the gym there, he's lost about 90 pounds. So I remember walking in going, that guy's just in great shape. You look at him go. He's just probably just naturally fit. Not true. If you're looking around, you're seeing people have results in this process that you're not having, try doing what they're doing, right? Get that calendar dialed in. And you guys, last thing, and I'm going to turn this back over here. Don't confuse leading yourself in these areas. Don't make the mistake of thinking that means by yourself. Okay, don't confuse leading yourself with by yourself. The best coaches, the best speakers, the best athletes, all of these people have coaches, trainers, other people behind them, right? Don't think that the folks that are here that are leading us and doing such a fantastic job, that they're not putting in massive action and getting constant correction from the people that are helping them. I'm stoked out of my mind because we get to go in the summertime and go spend time with Brian Williamson, right? I'm going, we have one of the country's top leadership trainers, right? Going to come pour into us, help us be better. So we can just flow all that downstream to everybody else. All of the people that are guiding this company and pushing us forward, they have people right alongside them. They're running buddies. So don't think that you're alone in anything that you're doing. There's Brian right now. I'm stoked to see you, brother.
Y'all been poking the bear for a while here, but no, listen, it's true. I've got a coach/consultant right now helping me think through things at the levels that I need to be, and we all need the guide by the side in our life, right? We get a lot of the sage from the stage, and that's important. We need inspiration and we need information. We value that tremendously here, but having the guide by the side is super valuable. And the best leaders are teachable, coachable, humble, and can get in reverse gear and recognize when we've done things that are we need to kind of go, all right, I got to run that one back. So y'all are just excellent examples of that, and it's been just encouraging to listen to you. So excited to get that time with you, Sean, and dig in and see as we're floating around the pool and all that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it just tremendously. We're going to transition back over to Samuel here. And here's the thing, when we're talking about doing virtual business, all of us, I don't know, maybe an agent here or there, but just about everybody within the Fine Master, my team, Samuel's team there are doing this all virtually. The interesting thing about Samuel is his show ratio is 75 to 85%. I got that right? Is that the right number there, Samuel? I think so. 75 to 85%. Now, I love that because one of the things that we've been saying so much is, hey, look, book more appointments because the show ratios are lower, right? But that's not an absolute truth, as in that's the way it has to be. One of the things that Samuel coaches on and talks about so much is how to make all these little tweaks and little adjustments, and is sometimes a word here, a word there. So I just think that he's the master at all this stuff. His trainings are widely listened to, not only across our teams, but other teams nationally. So Samuel, I just want to shut up now and turn this over to you and have you coach us up on how to do it, because I would love to have a 75 to 85% show ratio. How do we do it, brother?
Well, Sean, thank you for that. And once again, thank you, Brandon, Casey, and Brian, for just this business has transformed my life. I know I'm a better husband, a better father, a better leader because of you guys. So thank you so much. We're talking about the tie down. Interestingly enough, Jeremy mentioned there was a Facebook comment. Hey, how can you get better tie downs? And this is an area that I've had to grow in over the last year, because I realized that, I can't just show up to somebody's house now, even when they text me saying, hey, I want to cancel, or when they forget about me. I can't still just show up and knock on their door, say, hey, I'm here, and see their ghostly face like, oh, shoot, I forgot that you're coming by. Well, come on in. Like that doesn't work anymore. So we have to be intentional, like Brian was talking about, intentionality around setting our appointments on the tie down. I don't know about you, but when I set the appointments, I have to, hire a sitter for the kids. I'm prepping for, all of the illustrations. I'm calling the carriers. I'm consulting with my mentor. But the worst feeling ever is if you set an appointment like at 5 o'clock in the evening and it's 5:05 and you're just looking at your face on the Zoom call and you're like, where's my client? I don't know if anybody's experienced that before. I have all this preparation into the appointment. You're stoked. You have somebody to talk to and they just don't show up. And it's like, gosh darn it. Like, what do I need to do differently? So I've really tried to tweak and make some changes to improve my tie down, because I know that these families need our help and I'm the professional. So I want to give you just some simple tricks that I use. And it all starts on the phone, to be honest with you. Like if you have a solid phone conversation with your client, you'll have a solid show ratio. One thing that I always believe in is just be confident on the phone. Clients don't want to work with a client that's not very, or an agent that's not very confident. They want to work with someone who's professional, who's sharp, that knows what they're doing. So if we break down these things that I'm going to go over, I hope you're taking notes, because I believe it's going to really transform your show ratio on the call. The first thing I believe that is essential to having a strong show ratio is that question number 7 on the best script. Most importantly, when you had sent this letter in, who are you looking at protecting? Now, we may all ask that question, but, I love to show empathy after that. So if I get into that conversation and trying to find out the why, and then the client's like, well, I just want to make sure my house is paid off if I die. I use empathy. Oh, it sounds like you want to protect your family. Tell me, what does that look like? Like what other things are important to you? Like who are you leaving the house to? Like how would things play out? Like I use that moment to understand what's important to them. Amy Fine says this all the time. Nobody schedules an appointment with a doctor unless there's a reason for it. I'll tell you what, I'm one of them. I'm not going to spend, 10, 15 minutes on a phone call with an insurance agent if I don't really think that's important to me. And so helping uncover the why is extremely valuable. So don't let your clients give you that short little, oh, I just wanted the house paid off if I die. Make sure it's, hey, it sounds like your family is important to you. How would things play out if something were to happen to you, if you were to pass away, or if you couldn't work? And being able to empathize and repeat back what they said shows that you're engaging it and increases the importance of this call. Because if it's not that important to them, they won't show up. So uncovering that why is extremely, extremely important. That starts on the best script. Now I have the 3 S's of a strong tie down. So I want everybody to grab a pen and paper. I'll make it really simple. The 3 S's. If you write these 3 words down, S, number 1 is for set. The second S is for scribe. Third S is send. Set, scribe, send. Setting is I can squeeze you in to my schedule. I will only have about 10, 15 minutes tomorrow at 2 p.m. or 7 p.m. What time is better for you? That's the set. I love what Sean was talking about and other people on this call today. You don't want to say, hey, what's your day looking like tomorrow? Or, hey, how does Thursday work? Like, people want to work with professionals that actually have scheduled out times to help their clients. And so, I never would want to go to us like for a doctor again. And then you call the doctor and the doctor says, hey, well, I'm open all week. When do you want to come on in? Like, it's like probably not a good doctor to go see. So, the important thing is set. So be very confident, very strong with that language. I can only squeeze you in at this time or this time. That's the first. Now, the scribe part, and I really believe too, this is essential. Whether if a client's driving on the road, I have them pull over. If a client is, in the middle of work, I have them stop what they're doing and write it down, because there's something very tangible about writing down the appointment time on a piece of paper. So what I do say, Mr. Mrs. Client, I need you to grab a pen and paper. If you can write down these things, I need you to write down my name. It's Samuel Fine. F-I-N-E as an echo. A lot of people think I say find or sign or something. So I'm like spelling out my name, and then I say, write mortgage protection down by my name. How many times do you write someone's name down? You're like, why did I write that person's name down? Write the words mortgage protection and then have them write down the time. Okay, Mr. Client, you said 7 o'clock. Are you positive that's a good time for it? Great. Let's put 7 down there. And then obviously we have them write down their prescriptions and prep for the doctor's appointment, driver's license. That's the second S. So we have set that appointment. The second is for scribe. Make sure you are writing that down. And the third is send. When you set that appointment, you need to make sure that you are emailing the client the link for your Zoom call on that phone conversation. I've had many agents that will wait till after the call to send the email. That's not helpful. So what I'll do is say, Mr. Client, I'm going to send you an email right now with a link for the call. Okay, it's on its way. Do you receive it? And I will wait, whether that's 10 seconds or 30 seconds, to make sure that they've received that. That is essential, because you want to make sure that they have that, not only the information written down, but they have everything ready to go for your appointment. The last trick I like to do is I like to ask for a favor. So once I've gone through the 3 S's, we've set the time, they've written down, they've scribed on a piece of paper, and I've sent the email. I like to say, hey, Mr. and Ms. Client, I need you to do me a favor. I truly believe that people are good-natured innately, and they want to help people out and say, hey, listen, I'm extremely busy. I cannot afford my time wasted and you not showing up. I need you to put me in your calendar for 7 o'clock. Put me on the fridge wherever you keep your appointments. I need to make sure, can you throw me in your calendar for 7 o'clock? They're like, we'll do it right now. And that, for me, I believe if you can follow those steps of making sure that the why is strong, there's a reason to meet with you. If you're following the steps of the 3 S's, the set the appointment, the scribe, the send, and then if you can ask for a favor to make sure that you tie that down really well, your show ratio will significantly increase. So
Man,
that's hopefully some good tips and tricks there. Amy, what do you think?
I hope everybody is writing that down. I mean, see that? So set, scribe, and send. Set, scribe, and send. Samuel, I know. I know that there's, we talk about new agents that, say they're like, yeah, oh yeah, I booked my appointments. I'm going to send them the confirmation email now. And you're like, no. You got to send that email confirming that appointment and send, with the Zoom link, the date, the time. Hey, it's great chatting with you. Looking forward to helping you and your spouse out tomorrow. And then to have them open up that email and confirm that they got it, and I know a lot of us even send Google Calendar invites. Hey, can you do me a solid, accept that invite? I love that. I remember when I was brand new, I think dialing can be challenging for anybody. And even in person, my show ratio was awful. And someone said to me, they said, did you tell them not to forget about you? And I was like, no. Well, maybe you should tell the families not to forget about you. So I love that, Samuel. It's just like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you not forget about me? Like, and but that comes from stance. And, Jeremy, I know like you touch on this a lot. If you do have that no-show, or if you do have what are we calling it now, zorched, if you do have that appointment that needs to reschedule, you have jam-packed your calendar with your 15 non-negotiable appointments that you are like, thank God I can go get some lunch. Like, it's that relief comes into place. So I just, guys, if you have not been taking notes, find someone that was taking notes, because if you are getting sick and tired of being sick and tired with running these virtual appointments, half of them, 40%, 50% not showing, there is ways to get that show ratio to skyrocket. It starts with the preparation, like Jeremy was talking about, really leaning into making sure that you have all the ins and outs, all your ducks in a row. You've got the right resources, you've put in the right activity, you're following the system. And then like Sean and Jeremy talked on, the schedule. And gosh, I mean, the schedule is such a big thing. We say this all the time. Your boss is your Google Calendar. Your boss is your Google Calendar. You've got to prioritize that and stick to it. We call it I got this from Amal, set a non-negotiable schedule for yourself. And then, in that, being able to lead yourself. And it's from that place, like you were talking about, Sean, leading yourself. That's what empowers us to lead others, like Samuel was talking about, is that posture and that stance. You've done the preparation, you're following the system, and you have the stance and posture because you've led yourself to lead others. And yeah, it is just, there's nothing more valuable out there than you learning how to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what is it that I need to change? I think a lot of us get stuck with, throwing pity parties and saying, I wish it was easier. When what we really should be saying is, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to lean into the discomfort. And that's the whole thing on comfort zone. I mean, it is your comfort zone because you owned that territory long enough for you to be comfortable there. But if you look back, like for you, Sean, gosh, I have like heart attacks, little mini heart attacks when I think about the first couple weeks of you dialing and you calling me all the time. And I'm like, oh gosh, John's going to say he's had 5 more contacts, no appointments, but you stayed in that. What was that?
Pressure cooker. This pressure was on back then.
Totally. And, but now like you stayed in that discomfort long enough that's now your comfort zone. You could book appointments in your sleep. And so in this, guys, if you're brand new and you're adjusting to, selling on Zoom or on the phone, just know you just need to get better. And we're going to help you. Symmetry has paved out such an incredible system to help you maximize your skills. And I know this is such a cheesy saying you guys probably hear all the time. What you lack in expertise, you get to make up for in hustle. Like Jeremy was saying, book more appointments. But in this, guys, actually take to heart these tips and tricks. These guys have gone before us. They are incredible producers. And in this, they have applied themselves. They've gone through that learning curve, figured out what works, what doesn't work, in hopes that maybe you don't have to dig through that learning curve as long as they had to. And so I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to be in business with you. I feel like this team that we've got here is such a gift. I mean, I can't tell you, Samuel, I always laugh. I just want to speak to you real quick, just to say thank you for being my first, like my running buddy. There's so many times where we're on like a meeting or, we're handling a situation and my pioneer self comes out and I want to handle it very directly in a certain way. And in that moment, Sean's laughing. Sean, you're the same way. In that moment, I usually text Samuel during the meeting and I'm like, how do I handle this? And without fault, he goes, with grace. And I'm like, that's right, grace. With grace, with empathy. So guys, the work that you guys have put into this, you are where you're at today because you leaned into the discomfort of yesterday. And to anybody listening in, just know, these giants up here, Samuel, Sean, Jeremy, they have led themselves to a point of being able to find freedom and helping other people find that. And so I know that each and every person listening to this call, you can find that freedom too. But the question is, are you are you operating from a place of who you are and the best that you can be? Are you accepting the challenge? Are you being honest with yourself and putting yourself into that responsive mode when you need to? Because I can promise you this, if you are truly working on yourself, growing yourself, you can adapt and change to anything that comes in front of you. If that's virtual selling, if it's selling a policy over the phone, if it's, diving into the final expense, like whatever it is, if you can apply who you are, the excellence of the system in front of you, then with the work ethic to back it up, there's no way you're going to fail. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Brian, Todd. I'm so honored to be here.
Well, thank you all for all the work. It's great to see the results, and gosh, what a great practical framework too for everybody to take with them. So excellent job. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys being on today. I've got 2 pages here full of notes and wonderful facts and nuggets that we can pull out of these calls, and the tremendous success that you've all had within your agency, and for pouring all into us today is just so special. So we appreciate you all very much, and we look forward to seeing everybody back here, same time, same channel next week. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sean, Jeremy, and Amy. We love you guys.
Bye.
Bye all.